Hello everyone, my name is Kelly Johnson and I work in the curriculum team at NCFE. This webinar is for the Level 1 and Level 2 Technical Award in Music Technology. The plan for this webinar is to give you a basic overview of the V Cert qualification, the externally examined assessment including key dates and reset information, the internally assessed coursework and what to do, and finally a summary of the resources that are available to help and support you. Let us begin with an overview of the V Cert Level 1 and Level 2 Technical Award qualification. This is a vocational qualification and depending on your learners can be completed at Level 1 or Level 2. Do consider the learners you have though to decide which level they should be enrolled on. The grading covers Pass, Merit, Distinction and Distinction Star at both Level 1 and Level 2. The Level 1 and Level 2 Technical Award consists of 4 mandatory units. The external assessment contributes 50% and the internal assessment contribute 50% to the final qualification grade. The external assessments have invigilated exam papers and there is an assessment window during which the external assessment is to be completed, whereas the internal assessments or coursework involves generating a portfolio of evidence as internally assessed but externally quality assured. While the exam covers both Level 1 and Level 2 learners, the internal assessment grading criteria is different for the Level 1 and Level 2 learners. And furthermore, the Level 2 criteria is built upon the Level 1 criteria. For music technology, there are 2 external assessments. So they need to get at least a Level 1 pass in both and a combined UMS of 120 to achieve a Level 2 grade overall. For example, a Level 1 pass in the written exam and a Level 2 distinction in the practical exam would meet that requirement. If a learner is on the Level 2 qualification, then all the internal units must be passed at Level 2 as a minimum, and if a learner is on the Level 1 qualification, then all the internal units must be passed at a Level 1 as a minimum. If it appears that a learner isn't going to achieve this, then they can be placed on the Level 1 qualification and all the work completed at Level 2 by the learner can just be mapped to the Level 1 qualification, so no additional work is required. You may be familiar with this chart that shows how the V Cert grading matches with the GCSE grading. Level 1 goes up to a maximum of a Grade 3 equivalent with a distinction star, and the Level 2 distinction star is equivalent to a maximum of a Grade 8.5. The Department for Education has set this as the maximum as they want the top grades, i.e. the 9s, to be academic GCSE achievement only. V Certs fit into the open group or third bucket for performance points. This group can hold up to 3 qualifications depending on the qualification size and or weighting, etc. V Certs can be delivered alongside other qualifications, but please do bear in mind the discount codes applicable to each subject area. So for example, if you were doing a traditional GCSE in music and we're also delivering our technical award in music technology with the same learners, then only one of those will count in the performance tables as their content is similar. Next, we will have a look at the external assessments in a bit more detail. The specification is divided into 4 units and each unit has different guided learning hours. All the specification content must be completed prior to sitting the external assessment. There are 2 exams. The written exam includes short answer and listening questions. It is 60 marks in total and contributes 15% of the overall external assessment grade. The practical exam involves creative and technical manipulation of music material to a given brief. It is 36 marks and contributes 35% of the overall external assessment grade. The external assessment is the same for Level 1 learners and for Level 2 learners, so they won't be put in for different exams. The exams aren't on a set date, but rather there is an assessment window during which the external assessments are to be completed. There are cut-off dates for booking learners onto that window, and this is usually 2 weeks prior to the start of the assessment window, so as always, do check the exam timetable on QualHub as late registration fees can be incurred. There are 2 points in the year when learners can sit their exams. These are usually near the start of the new year from mid-January to mid-March and then in May-June time. There is one resit opportunity available, so it is best practice to plan this into your delivery. The key points for music technology are that there is a written and a practical exam, 2 hours each, and you are given a 1-week window in which to do that, and the use of computers is required, but the use of the internet is not permitted. The questions in the external assessments don't vary much year on year. The music technology practical external assessment also has 4 tasks, with tasks asking learners to configure the DAW project and importing the supplied audio and MIDI files. In task 2, learners are asked to edit the audio and MIDI material using DAW tools. For task 3, learners are usually asked to develop the supplied material by adding a musical part and editing a software instrument to create a new sound. And task 4, learners are asked to produce a final mix by the use of corrective and creative balancing and processing. There is also the written paper for music technology, which consists of 3 main categories of questions: multiple choice or match-up questions, shorter response ones of 4 marks, such as describe and explain, and the longer response questions of 6 marks or more, and they are usually the evaluation type questions. The Chief Examiner's report in the Assessment Materials tab on QualHub is where you can find the grade boundaries, and do bear in mind that learners need to achieve a minimum of a level 2 pass in each internal assessment, and they need to get at least a level 1 pass in both exams and a combined UMS of 120 to achieve a level 2 grade overall. These are the most recent grade boundaries, and when compared with those from summer 2019, there was at most 1 mark difference. Now I'll go through the internal assessments. As already explained, there are 4 units for each qualification that need to be completed, and each of those units are internally assessed. Probably the easiest and most efficient method is to teach the unit content first, then issue the coursework for that unit, which should be undertaken independently by the learner. Then repeat this with the next unit and so on, rather than teaching everything and then issuing all the coursework at the same time. Each unit has 3 to 4 learning outcomes that need to be taught, so let's look at an example for music technology. Unit 1 is using a digital audio workstation, and there are 3 specific learning outcomes. Understand the hardware components and software functions of a DAW, create a musical project that will include MIDI and audio, and learning outcome 3, review a completed musical project. Within the qualification specification, you will find all the relevant information for the teaching the content, beginning with a unit summary. This gives the skills it is designed to develop, the guided learning hours for that unit, and what the learner should know by the end. The next section details the grading descriptors for the unit and includes some examples. So for a pass, they would need to describe the hardware components and software functions of a DAW with correct use of some technical terms. And for a distinction, they also need to support most points with well thought out examples or explanations and use a wide range of technical terms correctly and consistently. The next page details the assessment and delivery in more detail, and if you are a teacher, you'll need to pay close attention to this page. Next, in the types of evidence section, it details what a learner must include and what they could include with suggested examples. Furthermore, once all the learning outcomes have been covered, there is a unit glossary which provides an overview and a short explanation of the key terminology that is used throughout the unit. You can write your own assignments, and there is guidance contained within the qualification specification, but we do have assignments already prepared and ready to use. You may wish to change aspects of the scenario so that is more suitably contextualized for your learners. And you can find the sample assignment tasks on the qualification specification page on QualHub. If you scroll down and click on the assessment tab, and within that area you will find those tasks. Let's take a look at one. Let's look at our sample assignment for Unit 1, using a digital audio workstation. The first thing on the brief will be the scenario. This is designed to give a real-life situation in order to help set the assignment in context. In this case, there is an open evening for the music department and lots of people are interested in the music technology course, and it is likely that some people are not sure what a digital audio workstation is, so the learner has to produce information material describing how a DAW functions. After the scenario, there are some further details on the specific information that should be included. It is structured into smaller tasks and then outlines the way the evidence can be presented. We've tried to keep this as open as possible to appeal to many different types of learners. Following this, the grade descriptors are given, which is what the students need to do for that grade and what the assessor will be using when marking the assignment. In QualHub, there are a range of course file documents, including assessor documentation. Here is an example document for the assessor to give feedback to the learner, but you don't need to use these documents. The feedback can be given to the learners after the EQA visit has occurred. The feedback shouldn't be overly specific and directed, so it might be best to use the grade descriptors to assist with feedback. For example, you might say something like, "You have described X, but you need to explain the importance of X." Or, "You have used some key terminology, but you need to use the key terms more consistently throughout your work." Before performing any marking, you may want to go onto your qualification page on QualHub. On the Assessment tab, you will find some samples of coursework. This can be useful to see an example pass or distinction piece of work and can also inform your teaching when you have examples to show the level of detail that might be required. Let's look at the marking and grading, and it is probably easiest done with an example. There are 4 units in the qualification, and within each unit there are learning outcomes. Each of those learning outcomes will need to be assessed and graded. So for the first learning outcome in music technology, these are the grading descriptors. In this case, a pass is describing the hardware components and software functions of a DAW with correct use of some technical terms. But for distinction, you must also support most points with well thought out examples or explanations using a wide range of technical terms correctly and consistently. Then for learning outcome 2, there will be some different grading descriptors, and likewise for learning outcome 3. So let's say you have now marked the Unit 1 assignment, and these are the grades that are achieved in each learning outcome: a pass, a merit, and a merit. The final grade for the unit will be the lowest grade the learner achieved in a learning outcome, so in this example, a pass. Each learning outcome has to be demonstrated at the same basic level of competency if we're to say that the overall unit is at that level of competency. There is no compensatory grading within the unit. When you have graded all the units, you can see there is a mix of grades achieved within the different units. The final grade won't be a pass, as there is compensatory grading when it comes to combining the units at the end and determining an overall grade. This is how the final grade is calculated, which can be found in the grading guide. UMS points are assigned for the different units, and the UMS points get added together for each unit and for the examined component. The total will tell you what grade the learner has achieved. Using those grades from the previous slide would give you these UMS numbers. In total, they will have achieved 156 UMS for the internal assessments. If they got passes in their exams, but only just, then their UMS combined is 120, which will bring their total UMS score to approximately 276, which places them on a level 2 pass. The learner would only need 4 more UMS to achieve a level 2 merit, as that is 280 UMS. The UMS is different for the different subject areas due to the different amount of guided learning hours, but the calculation is the same. Thankfully though, you don't need to sit with a calculator working these out, because In QualHub, on the Assessment Materials tab on your qualification page, you'll find the grading guide, which is what you've seen on the previous slide, and information about how many UMS equates to which grade. Secondly, there is a grading calculator where you can select either the level 1 or level 2 qualification, depending on which one that the learner is enrolled on. You can select the grades they achieved in the internal assessments and what they have achieved in the exam, or what you predict if they haven't sat it yet, and it will calculate the estimated final grade for you. As our mission is to promote an advanced learning, we have several resources available to help and support you with that. The key area for support will be QualHub. Qualhub.co.uk will be your primary go-to where you can search for all our qualifications and access the specification, assessments, teaching materials, regulations and much more. You can begin typing your qualification subject area or your qualification code and it will give you a suggested list of qualifications. Let us begin by focusing on some of the teaching materials that are available on QualHub and are free to download. We have some schemes of work which completely outline units of work based on 1-hour lessons. There are also individual lesson plans too, with suggested timings, lesson aims, learning outcomes and suggested assessment activities. We have some PowerPoint presentations covering the teaching content from the specification and includes teaching activities that could be used with your learners. And finally, there are individual worksheets with homework activities to accompany the lessons. They can also be used as flipped learning opportunities, whatever you decide. And as with all these resources, it is best to use them and adjust them to suit your learners. Using actual assessment material is a good way to make revision effective, and the material I'm going to show you now is also available on QualHub at no extra cost. For every qualification, you will find past or sample exam papers. You will also find the mark schemes and they will say which assessment objectives are being addressed by the question. Furthermore, the Chief Examiner's Report, which can be found in Assessment Materials on QualHub, does provide an insight to how learners perform nationally on different questions. So, for example, which questions had strong answers, which were answered incorrectly, and what were the common errors, which can help to inform your future teaching. We also have sample portfolios for music technology, which can help you understand the requirements of grading and provide guidance on how a portfolio could look in the chosen learning outcomes. You can also access various unit-specific webinars on our YouTube channel in the Training for Schools and V Certs playlist. The focus of these webinars are the content and assessment of the unit and contain samples of learners' work which have been graded at different levels. Another useful tool which is part of the NCFE group is Skills Forward. These are one of the UK's leading e-learning software and assessment solutions for functional skills, GCSEs, apprenticeships and employability skills. The unique assessments, resources and summative assessments can transform how education providers approach functional skills, GCSE and the employability skills development of learners. But in terms of research though, the most useful part of Skills Forward is probably the skills portfolio. Skills Portfolio allows learners to submit evidence and keep records of their work, which will allow centres to manage, monitor and assess their learners remotely. The assessor is also able to upload evidence for the learners too, so for example, witness statements for the internal assessments. It can allow for easy management of the quality assurance process and complies with Ofsted and the Education and Skills Funding Agency requirements, giving you the evidence needed during inspection. Aside from the skills learners will gain from the V Cert, we have also developed a suite of resources to support the wider curriculum and skills learners will need. These include 32 sessions, each lasting 2 hours, and how they cover personal, social, health and economic education, study skills, and employability and career skills. These packs can be found within the teacher materials on QualHub. We have now reached the end of the webinar, so thank you for attending and I hope you have found this useful. If you do have any questions, then please do get in touch with me anytime directly using my email kellyjohnson@ncfe.org.uk, or if I'm unavailable, our general email is curriculum@ncfe.org.uk. Thanks again, take care everyone, and stay safe.